EduTech Guys Radio, radio.edutechguys.com.
The opinions expressed under the site and its programs are those of participants and not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any specific educational entity, sponsor, company, state, or government agency.
Hello and welcome
to another episode.
Welcome to EduTech Guys, radio.edutechguys.com. I'm one of your hosts, David Henderson.
And I'm your other host, Greg Moore, and Jeff is once again absent.
He is.
I have never been absent at the start of a show before. I demand that we revoke Jeff's EduTech Guy card.
That's right. We're taking the card away. EduTech Guys Radio is brought to you by Southwest Arkansas Education Cooperative and Hope Public Schools, both in Hope, Arkansas. And we also want to thank CDWG for providing some of the equipment that we usually use on the show. We're not today, but we want to thank them anyway. That's what we do. So there it is. All right, we're waiting for Jeff to arrive, but since he's not here, we're going to talk about him. No. One of the things that I just want to throw out real quick, or maybe not so quick, we'll see.
Throw it out real slow.
Real slow. Actually, what I want to talk about, that was almost Christopher Walken. Not quite. Earlier this week, I went up to one of our local school districts, and they've got a student who has been out of school for quite a while. I want to say most of the school year. I would guess. I think that's got to be. It's got to be. But no, she was diagnosed with a disease. And she's been out. In fact, she's been hospitalized for most of, I think all of last semester and much of this one. But she has taken a turn for the better, and so now she's taking some treatments. She's still homebound, and she's finally got to a point where she's able to do her schoolwork, so she's getting caught up with that. And she, like I said, she's homebound and hospital bound in that when she goes to the hospital for treatments, she has to stay, I think it's overnight or something. I'm not quite sure how that works. However, I'm saying all of this to say this. Earlier this week, I took our telepresence robot, our double robotics robot, up to the high school and let their principal essentially test drive it. Play with it, drive it around, right. And so, as you might imagine, it was met with mixed reviews from the student body as this thing was traipsing around the hallways. And,
everything from "That's awesome" to "See if it'll tip over."
That's yes. In fact, I can't remember the exact conversation, but one of the conversations, what we did. Let me back up before I get too far ahead. What we did was the principal was driving, and I was walking along beside just to make sure students weren't going to mess with it, and to let her know, hey, there's there's a pen on the floor, or there's a corner coming up, or straighten yourself out, or whatever. Not her, the robot.
Right. Straighten yourself out.
Yeah, let me clarify. So as we're going through, and when we're down a different hallway from where the principal is, and one of the students does say something along the lines of, "Oh man, I just knocked that thing over to the ground," and I said, $2,500 and I'll let you. And he was like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, $2,500 is what it costs." Oh. And at that point, it was really weird. At that point, some of the kids that were kind of horsing around, in and kind of near it, I mean, instantly stopped. They were like, "What? $2,500?" Yes, exactly. So today, and I was not there for this, unfortunately. I wish I could have been. But today they were going to actually do the first test run with the student. The principal's plan was to take the robot and carry it to the cafeteria rather than have it driven over there.
Right.
But just carry it over to the cafeteria and plunk it down with the students' friends and let them interact and have lunch together.
You got to make sure that robot eats. I mean, if it doesn't,
it's skinny. Have you seen the thing?
I have. It's just a beanpole.
It is thinner than you.
That's saying something. That is saying something.
That's right.
Didn't think it was physically possible. That is an anorexic,
we have got
anemic robot.
It is very, very anemic. We've got to put some meat on its bones. So, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was talk of putting some clothes on it as well. Hanging a T-shirt from it.
Yes.
It didn't look like this naked, skinny stick roaming around
a stick
the
with
district.
2 wheels. Yes.
Yeah. So, but it was very cool.
Interesting.
The principal absolutely loved it. She was enthralled completely. In fact, I think she said something about doing her classroom walkthroughs. She's like, can I use this to do my observations? I don't think technically you can.
That would be a classroom roll-through.
A roll-through. That's right. It's not a walkthrough. It's a roll-through. They see me rolling.
Looks like Jeff requires
Jeff Paha.
access to the,
Jeff is locked out. I forgot that. See, when we do the radio show here, we are doing it actually live from Southwest Arkansas Education Cooperative, and we close. The office closes at the time that the radio show starts. So if you're late, like Mr. Madlock, then you get locked out. That's how it works. That is how this works. So anyway, that's exactly how this works. So anyhow, Greg had to go run a rescue mission to get Jeff
dangling from the cliff, and I heroically reached down and said, "Grab my hand!" He saved me.
Or he pushed the push bar on the door. It's the
same thing.
It's so similar.
It's totally the same thing.
It is. Welcome, Mr. Jeff, to the show.
Sorry, I was working with some high school kids.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you do that Mondays and Wednesdays.
Yeah, Wednesdays are going to have to change. It just gets in the way.
That's it. We're moving Wednesday. Wednesday is a pain in the butt.
I think Wednesday should now come after Thursday.
Okay.
So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday. There you go. I thought you guys. See, what were you doing without me?
We were
probably moving
floundering.
Yes,
like
exactly.
the fish on the table.
Fish on the
probably
table.
moving ahead rather stealthily.
We did. I was telling them about going to Prescott earlier and setting up the robot and the principal playing with it and that type of thing. And telepresence.
Big deal. I mean, it's a big deal.
Big deal?
Big deal.
I'm sorry, it was a big deal.
I forget my facial inflections don't work over the radio.
Big deal.
It was a big deal.
Get out of here.
Get out the door.
You just sat down. You gotta go eat.
Isn't there a student?
Yes,
is there
exactly.
an ill student?
There is an ill student.
That's one of my biggest things. I feel like that's the biggest deal with telepresence is that if you can make a student feel included, then that gives that student, because that student's already going through, especially an ill student or a physically handicapped student,
right,
who cannot be in the classroom. The depression level and the non-inclusion that's there. Using a robot also makes you feel kind of like you're really special. Like, I'm the robot kid.
Yeah.
Kid. So, you get to have that little extra level of confidence boost to who you are.
Yeah.
And so that's just a really cool thing to me.
Well, that's one of the things that I was telling everybody, I took the robot up there on Monday and was walking through the setup and the use and that kind of stuff with the principal, and she said that the student is finally to the point where she can do the classwork, but the principal's concern was the social interaction side. Mm-hmm. She said, you can get all the classwork you want, but if you're sitting home, and especially for as long as she's been out, she really wanted to get that student to be able to interact with her fellow classmates
and peers.
Yeah, that's right. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I was telling everybody that today they were supposed to have kind of a dry run, have the student connect in and have them kind of hang out at lunch. So I'll have to get with the principal and find out how that went.
Tomorrow they're going to go for the pool.
The pool.
The wet run.
The wet run. That's when you go to Fulton.
Yikes. No, it's...
So I can't remember if we've talked about what you're doing with students on here or not. So
Well,
what are you doing with students?
We're just working on the Bobcat Studios, which is a great little program, and we've been trying to get it off the ground now for several years. The hard part is that a lot of schools, some things that they get cut out are things like audiovisual and things like that, because the cost of audiovisual is much cheaper, but the technical level is much greater.
Right, exactly. There's a lot of stuff that you
I mean, there's just, and it's easier. It really is.
Oh, it's gotten much easier.
What's actually happened with this program that I'm working with is that we're using iPads, MacBook Airs, and iMacs to do all of the editing and the video recording.
Right.
They're using iPad Air 2s, which have an 8-megapixel camera. They're shooting 30 frames of HD.
Yeah.
And the kids have really blown today. They just blew us away. We have a green screen in the room. One wall is painted green. They went ahead and took some green butcher paper, the paper used for bulletin boards, and they extended it on out another 8 feet onto the floor, and they modified some files that they took some pictures of the sets that they wanted, and then modified it themselves in motion.
Oh, nice.
And made their own desk. They covered some tables in green paper, and they made their own desks, their own news site.
Cool.
So
wow.
And they recorded some test video and stuff on it, and they emailed me. I missed Monday, and then I emailed and said, we can't wait to show you what we did. And we showed them one of the guys from KTSS is working with me, who's a real, he does this for a living.
Sure.
And he showed them a little bit better lighting. But it looked great, but then he showed them how to get rid of some shadows and some stuff with some lighting. And they reshot some stuff for just a few minutes ago.
Right.
And they were like, it looks pretty real.
That's cool.
So they've learned pretty quickly that, we can make any set we want to. So they're working on a late night with the Hope Bobcats is what they're working on. And so now they were like, well, we got our set finished. We don't have to worry about that anymore. So now we can do this. And on Monday, the guy from KTSS, Matt Massinelli, I'll just say who it is, Matt. He showed them how to take to do some really cool stuff with Premiere.
Oh yeah.
And he showed them how to take day shots and make them look like night, and do some stuff with some time lapse and things like that. So they did a really neat thing, and they figured out in motion while we were there. They had this great day shot of kids changing class in front of Hope High School with the sky. And so they'd taken the iPad out, and they went out between every period and shot, 5 minutes of video each time. And so you got some really neat stuff. So the clouds would change. You'd see the sky was pretty blue, and they did this, a few weeks ago before the rain. Well, they took all that, made it look like night, put a fake moon coming in over the top. They showed it at the top, and put it on like a 6-minute loop. And so now they have a set, and the background is like an open window, and you see the sky changing constantly in the background. Nice. So it's real. It's time lapse, but it's slow.
Yeah.
Right. So the moon comes up. So about every 6 minutes, it takes 6 minutes to go across the back where the chairs will be, where the guests would sit in the couch or whatever. That's
cool.
So they're doing some pretty cool stuff.
That is some pretty cool stuff.
We gave them a challenge to work with motion, and they've taken the challenge. And that stuff with the green screen blew my mind. They figured out, you can do all kinds of stuff in motion.
Yeah, motion.
And they're right.
Motion's amazing. Yeah, motion's an amazing program, especially since it costs $30. I mean, you try to do this with pretty much the next competing product for this would be one from
After Effects.
Yeah, After Effects from Adobe. And that's a lot of money. That's what they use on television shows and stuff like that. So,
but here's what's really interesting. After Effects pretty much won't run well on a Mac. Because After Effects likes NVIDIA graphics cards.
Okay.
And a lot of the Macs now, unless you're building a custom Mac,
right?
You're getting
either an Intel integrated chip or an ATI chip.
An ATI chip.
Yeah.
So not that it runs bad, but you're not going to do any 3D work or anything like that. But what's interesting is that you have this, and I'm not knocking Adobe. Adobe stuff's expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, the cloud. Everybody's like, well, now it's in the cloud. You're only paying this much a month. Well, yeah, but to get all the true features, you're paying $100 a month forever.
Right.
So $1,200 a year. That's expensive software.
Right.
To do the stuff that you want to do. And the interesting part about motion is that it's $50. I mean, it's $50, and it does everything After Effects does, and in my opinion, about 75 things more. And it's by Apple, so guess what? It runs like on their machines. It runs like a crazed fool. It runs like bananas going through an owl. That's such thing. But the kids also shocked us because if you've seen some of the new graphics that people show, they'll show like a city scene and then it'll show the title of the city sitting, like in steel in the city.
Yes.
They figured that out. So they've got one where one of the students brought up his drone and shot some pictures like out over the top, up about, I'd say 200 feet maybe. Mm-hmm. So they got the high school and sitting out in the middle of the football field that says Hope High School.
That's great.
In like a chrome, crimson color.
Right, exactly.
It's pretty sharp. When they got the shadows right where the sun was, so the shadows running across.
That's cool.
It's pretty neat stuff. I mean, they're learning. And what's interesting is that most of those kids kind of came in like, but now they're like, oh yeah. And the interesting part they love is they love using the iPads because they shoot their video, they take their pictures, they instantly upload it to the Google Drive.
Right.
And then they delete it from the iPad. So they've got, because it's now sitting on Google Drive and can be pulled into the editing bay machine anytime. And it's always on Google Drive. And since education has unlimited storage,
exactly,
we need 500 terabytes for a virtual machine to run a firewall on our end. We've got it in the virtual. That's an inside joke. So, but yeah, Apple's, and there's the interesting part. The kids like Final Cut. They really do. And they like using it. Premiere is the industry standard. It pretty much is. A lot of bigger companies now do use Final Cut.
Yeah.
I mean, but
Final Cut lost some ground whenever they made the big change over to Final Cut X because it changed the way editing was handled with their, what do they call it, the magnetic timeline or something like that.
Yeah.
And people didn't like it at first. But although here lately it's sort of started to come back again, where it's like, okay, you know what, we kind of like, after they've made the improvements, the magnetic timeline's not so bad. So yeah, that Final Cut,
Premiere.
Yeah, Final Cut. Yeah, Final Cut did lose some ground there whenever they made the big change over to Final Cut X.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm pretty impressed with the work that they've done. So yeah, that's what's going on. And they're all working on promos that have to deal with the school and the school system.
Yeah.
And then they're working on their late night show, which they would like to do one show before the end of school, and then work on it in the summer.
So, and I'm going to assume I know the answer, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. The students that are working on Bobcat TV and the things that they're doing and the things they're coming up with, is that being tied into anything else?
Some of the kids are East students, but this is all after school work. So unfortunately, no. But like I said, a lot of schools don't have the manpower at the time.
Oh, sure.
To do those classes, like when it's different when we were in school. We rode our horses to school. And
I did not ride a horse to school.
But we walked uphill in the snow both ways. So
yeah, that's right.
But yeah, we had journalism teachers, and we didn't have video. We really didn't. We didn't.
Oh no, we didn't have video.
Now we had dark room and we had film cameras, and we all learned about that, ad nauseum, and learned to take pictures.
We didn't even have that at a couple of the schools I went to. I went to a lot of schools.
Yeah,
we moved around a lot.
So yeah, and that's expensive. But chemicals back in the days.
Oh yeah,
in the 80s, buying
yeah.
chemical and film, that was real expensive.
Well, I was just asking because my thinking is. And I don't know. I don't know the personnel at the district who might remotely even be interested. But I think it'd be very cool if there were a couple of teachers. If there was maybe a language arts teacher and heck, for that matter, a math teacher, possibly science. Depending on which subject. I'm not sure which subject would fit into this, but help them have those teachers kind of guide the students in terms of curriculum related projects, or for example, have the students write out what they're doing.
Right.
And heck, for that matter, once the students write it out, then at that point, they've essentially created a white paper on how this works or how they did it, and now why not have them turn around? Now the students could publish that, and hey, by the way, we wrote this paper on how this works.
And that has been, and it's funny we're getting into this discussion, but it's the same thing that's happening right here. We're good at creating content on the fly. especially when it's just it's oral, vocal content. We're creating it on the fly.
Sure.
Yeah, because we kind of deviated from our notes. So, but the whole problem with school websites and with digital media in education is content. And it's interesting. Greg's doing a lot of documentation because Greg's going on to another gig, and so he's making sure that we're fully documented down to the nth degree, so that we know, okay, yeah, plug that in, one of those things.
Right.
But Greg is 0.06% of the population. You're a writer.
Yeah.
You free write. You write a lot. I don't write as much as I used to. I read a lot more than I do that. And I think that's the problem that we can't get the kids to understand, because they have so many other venues to express themselves.
Yeah.
And to them, 5 misspelled words in a text with a Snapchat is saying a lot. And if you're out there listening, and you guys have probably seen it, you can be anywhere and you can look around a restaurant or a movie theater and watch girls especially suddenly take their phone and make a face and shoot a selfie, and they'll do it about every 15 to 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the new way of expressing themselves, just like Instagram. I mean, Instagram and Snapchat, they don't use Facebook anymore, because they're using Instagram and Snapchat. Yeah. Twitter, 140 characters, but I can now put GIFs in there. See, even Twitter had to go, well, we gotta get them, we gotta get these kids in here. Mm-hmm. It's human beings, period. Every one of us could agree that I will fly past tweets that don't have a picture with them. They're gonna catch your eye. Catch your face.
Catch your face.
Catch your eye quicker if they have a picture on them. But I think that's the kicker, is that I think what we've lost is that ability we have to start training our kids to be creators of content. And it's interesting, I've been working on some stuff trying to get myself into a habit. And one of those is stacking habits. And so I'll go ahead and throw that out there, because I think it's a really great idea. And you stack a new habit with an existing habit. So that if I get up, I drink some water, and then I write down the most important things, my MIT for the day, when I drink my water, right there on a Post-it note in the bathroom after I drink a glass of water. And then I brush my teeth, and then I read 500 words. So stacking habits can help you get to a point where, okay, this is a habit that I do every day. Because everybody has a morning ritual that you do.
Okay.
So stack a habit onto one of those other habits that you do during that morning ritual, and you'll find yourself. But the other kicker is that what I've also tried to start doing is, okay, I'm going to go to bed an hour early so I can get up an hour early.
Right. Or if you're not a morning person, like one of us in this room is.
Yeah.
Don't get up an hour early, but work an hour later, and for yourself.
Exactly.
Either way, whichever one works better for you.
Yeah. And I think that's it's really funny. I think, when I was much younger, my go time was 1 a.m. to 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I was focused and I was sharp and I was go time. Now, 1 a.m. is not my go time. But interesting enough, if I go to bed at 10, it happened this morning. At 4 a.m., I was wide awake.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm awake. Let's start doing stuff. And I actually got so much stuff personally that I wanted to get done. That was a big deal. And there's something else that I've been doing and I'm trying to do more is, and it'll sound hokey, and I don't mean it to sound hokey, but meditation's a really big deal. Mm-hmm. And I meditate and I visualize the things that I have to do for the rest of the day. I know that sounds crazy.
No.
But when I write my MIT, so most important things for every day, then I'll take 10 minutes and I use an app called Cat Buzz. I have to look it up here in a second.
Cat Buzz.
And Cap Buzz. And
Cap Buzz. Okay. I was like, what?
Cat Buzz.
But then I visualize the things that I have to do, and I kind of run through them in my mind just to go, okay, you need to go through this stuff to get my psyche ready for the day.
Right.
Like, I know people that are, powerful, important, happening people that meditate like 15 minutes 4 or 5 times a day, just to get into a zone and calm down, get yourself recentered, and work back through it. I think it's a big deal that we have to do for our kids. Not necessarily meditation, but I think their lives are this constant stream of information,
reaction instead of being proactive.
And unfortunately, 80 to 90% of the information is just useless.
Yeah.
Who cares if Conway has a new pair of jeans? Conway. Twitty. Conway. But it's true. I mean,
Cat Buzz, Conway, Twitty.
The content we're taking in, unless that's your industry. If you're an entertainment writer, then that's your industry.
Sure.
But most of these kids, they're not realizing the industries that are out there.
I think part of this comes down to the fact that when would this is all self-directed, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to sit down and make my plan for what I'm going to do for the day because of what's important to me and what I want to accomplish. Well, most kids in public schools don't get that because the schedule is already laid out for them. It's like, okay, from here to there, you're going to be in this classroom. From here to there, you're going to be in this classroom. From here to there, it's like there is no time to actually choose what you're going to do yourself.
Which brings us back to last week's topic. We were talking about an open schedule.
Well, yes, but by the same token, you talk about successful people visualizing what they're going to be doing through the day, and then during the day, coming back and visiting that, the visualization and or possibly recapping, okay, well, I didn't do that, so I need to do this, or, okay, yes, I accomplished X, Y, and Z, so now I'm ready to do, D, E, and F, or, whatever. Right. So taking those people, based on what we were just talking about, we don't get to determine what we're doing every hour of every day either. Yet, we can still take advantage of visualizing what we've got to do, right? I know today's a good example. For me, when I got up, and I don't visualize every morning, and I probably should make it a habit, but that was one of the things that I did. I laid out, okay, today, let's say I've got to videotape a classroom, first thing, and then let's see, I've got to go to the school district to take care of this problem that they're having, and I have the radio show. So those were my big three.
Right.
In between there, I also know, hey, I've got to hopefully get to the office at some point, or maybe that is my day. Maybe from 10 to 12, I know I've got a meeting that's already scheduled. So I can say, okay, well, let me visualize, what do I need to accomplish before the meeting? What can I accomplish right after the meeting? So I think students could do the same thing. Perhaps their whole day schedule is one big hunky block. All right, and so they have this chunk of time, 8 to 3:30. There's nothing. You're in school, and there's maybe you can visualize what you're going to be, what's required of you in each of those classes, or what you think you're going to happen in each of those classes, or whatever. But maybe you can't. You know what? I'm designated that period of time. That's what it is.
Right.
But then you have the time before that, and you have the time after that students could visualize, whatever it is they've got to do. Things like, I've got to do this homework, and I've got to do my homework from X time to, another time. That's to me, that's one of the things that, and I don't know, I'm sure it's different for different folks, different families around, but when I was a student, and we were going to school, I had a set time I had to do homework. We came home from school, and we could go play for a little while, but then there was supper and homework, and if you had time after homework, you could go out and play again. Otherwise, it was time for whatever, getting ready for bed or doing whatever. But it was always that, and in my case, it wasn't a set time on the clock, but it was definitely a set time of events. Right. It was always when supper was done, table was cleaned, homework was done.
Right. I think that's interesting. We're talking about lists. I make a lot of lists. Greg makes lists. We all make lists. Yes. But there's. I'm
on a lot of lists.
I wanted to clarify. And if you think about some of the most important apps and things and software websites that are out there, are list making. They're scheduling. But I wanted to clarify that I make a list and then I do MITs. Yeah. Because you can make a list and then you go through that list and go, okay, now realistically,
what am I actually
these
going
are the
to
important things that I need to circle and get done today, and these are the things that I will try to squeeze in inside that other stuff.
Right.
But there's a lot of great apps out there to do it, and there's the thing: if you can make yourself do it. The other thing that's really crazy that's really big right now is self-affirmation. Which is funny. I think it's Stuart Pauly from Saturday Night.
You're good enough.
But that's really
you're smart enough.
Did you know
and doggone it, people like you.
That's actually I did not know this, but that was interesting.
That was interesting.
what has gone on.
That's actually a big deal among Zuckerberg does it. A bunch of these guys do self-affirmation to themselves, in their private moments every day, just to, if anybody can lie to yourself well, it's you. I mean,
I don't know if I would agree. I mean, well, I've actually read,
and it's maybe not a lying to yourself.
Well, no,
it's like
right, exactly. Ultimately, when it comes down to self-esteem, the self is an important part of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody else can give you self-esteem. Only you can give yourself self-esteem.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole self-affirmation thing. I've actually read stuff about that. Works great for some people, and for other people, it works the exact opposite way. The more they tell themselves, "Okay, I can do this. I'm great," the more they go, "No, this is ridiculous. This is stupid."
You see, I've never done it, and I wonder if that would be me. I'm pretty self-deprecating. Okay, I'm a lot self-deprecating.
Yeah.
And I wonder what it would do to. It's funny, mentally, I can tell myself, wait a second. I can rationalize the fact that,
right.
Okay, you can do this.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But you're right. Sometimes it makes you wonder if it would just be, throwing more gas on the fire.
Sometimes it feels like, Barbies come in like, oh, you're great, you're awesome, yeah. Whenever it's not based on anything, you're just telling us, when you're just telling yourself, I am awesome. Well, why?
Right.
When you aren't following that path of like, okay, what's the actual reasoning here? It falls flat.
Well, then you become those people on American Idol that just don't understand why no one thinks they can sing as well as they can.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Or a certain presidential candidate.
All of that to say, biggest problem I see, and to me, this is an underlying problem with one of the major underlying problems with educational technology is content. And I mean, I think that's it. I think that too many people think that when we say we're infusing technology into school, that it's going to make kids better writers. It's going to make kids turn out better papers. And that's no different than writing it by hand and a pencil, or scribbling it on the sand at the beach, or chiseling it on a wall in a cave in France with a torch. Whatever it is. That's where some of the first came from.
What, they were carving with a torch?
Well, that's how they were seeing with a torch.
Oh.
Carving with a torch. It's like, hello, torch. Let us carve.
Carving turkey with a torch. But I think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, it really all comes down to how are you implementing it?
Sure.
Are you implementing it? The technology, as we've said a zillion times before, it's not a magic bullet, and it's not something that you can just throw into the mix and expect everything to magically become better.
Right.
It's really difficult to actually. I think part of the problem is the people that often push for integrating technology are not the people that are actually going to be integrating it. So
well, that's kind of like the people who make the rules about education.
Exactly.
Aren't the ones actually the educators.
Doing the education.
So, so often there's this disconnect where it's like, okay, a tool is provided. Well, nobody asked for the tool.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how to use the tool. There's no vision for how to implement the tool. It's like, okay, great, the tool's there, but you got to take it farther than that.
Right.
Yeah. That's how most workshops play out too. Is that you bring in a specialized presenter that's just magnanimous. You know what I'm looking for. Magnanimous?
Magnetic?
Has a magnetic personality?
It's just phenomenal. And
thank you.
They come in and everybody in the workshop is just like, go, yes, go, 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 go. And they go back and they institute this thing.
Right, exactly.
And then it never goes anywhere.
Yeah,
it's just not the same. It just never even happens. It doesn't even sparkle a little bit.
Right, exactly.
Oh, we got it done. And I think that happens a lot. Is that you and that's the sad part about education. I don't want to say that those people are preying on education. They're not, because most of those people believe in what they're doing.
Right.
And it's kind of like the revival sense of it. Well, I'm just going to try to I'm hitting 300, but if I get 3, it's a win for me. If I can get 3 on board to this, they'll sell to 3 more, and they'll sell to 3 more. Pretty much, I got a pyramid scheme going. So, but I think that's.
But the kicker is, though, that's the fallacy of it all.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Somewhere.
It's not being
somewhere in the history of presentations and vendor dog and pony shows, that's exactly the mentality that has come about. I'm going to present this, like you said, to 300, and I'm hoping 3 get it. Because if those 3 get it, then they'll share with 3, and then those 3 will get it, and those 3. But that's not what happens.
No, exactly. It dies with the
90% of the time, it dies. Not only does it die, before it even reaches that second set of 3, right. But a lot of times the first set of 3,
right.
It dies with them because, for whatever reason, another tool comes along, or they don't get
buy-in.
The buy-in. Or sometimes they don't get the training they think they need, or even the training that they do need,
right.
In order to kind of keep it going.
Well, and actually, what it comes down to is content.
That is a huge part of it.
It's just they gave me content first. I used all of it. Now I don't know how to create new content for XYZ or XYZ.
And that actually spurs a whole other conversation. Sorry, my brain went off in 6 different directions. Most educators are not content creators.
No.
They never wanted to be. They never cared to be.
Right.
They're not content creators. They love to take the content, and they will they'll love to deliver that content.
Yeah.
They're not going to create the content. They don't understand how.
Right.
They don't want to know how.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not where they see themselves.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of the tools fall short.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these, especially these creation tools, look at all this content we're giving you that we created with this. Now it's your turn. Now you can take this and create something.
Right.
No, I don't know what I want to create. What
and
am I
the sad
doing?
part is they can't even take what was created and then modify it to fit into their, puzzle piece.
Right.
It's
and that's not, to me, that's not a shortcoming
No.
on those individuals at all.
It's different personality.
It's right. It's their personality. Sure. It's the different things that they like to do.
We're not training them to do that.
And we're not training them to do that.
Universities are not training teachers to be content makers.
No, not at all.
It's funny. It's funny. They think they are.
Right. Yeah.
And they want to believe they are. And the administrators and the lead educators in this country think that, that's what we're doing. And we're going to put in Makey labs. They can't even make content here. Mm-hmm. So when the kids make content, those teachers are in a whole new world of terror. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, you just did this. I have to figure out how to take what you're good at making and tie it into these standards.
Right.
Oh, that's even worse than just us letting go. Listen, the kids are going to steal in the class. You just got to make content. I'd rather do that than have to them make something and then me try to tie it to standards.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, but think about it. Of all the cool stuff out there that's working even great, Teach Like a Pirate. You know why Teach Like a Pirate's working? Because he has content. I mean, his free content is enough to probably do lessons for 3 months.
Yeah.
And, even when you start buying his book and getting into the stuff, there's just so much content. And that has nothing to do with the web.
Right.
Or apps. I mean, he incorporates technology in some of the activities, but all of this is just pure content.
Yeah.
Right. That's a really interesting piece. And I think that's part of our country's the way that we look at things in this country is really interesting. I saw a picture, and I'm going to diverge a little bit here. Go with me. I saw an interesting picture from Nancy Reagan's funeral, and it was Hillary Clinton hugging George Bush. And they had this look on their face like, hey, it's good to see you. You know? I mean, now immediately in this country, the Republicans went, and the Democrats went, she's hugging the enemy. He's hugging the enemy. Yeah, but the interesting part is it's like I forget the lady, the Matlin lady and Carville. Remember the two Democratic and Republican presidential people that ran the whole Democrat? There was a movie made about them, and one was a Republican and one was a Democrat, and they were the ones that were the election. They ran the candidates, election runs, and they married each other. And they were both, even on TV, in debates, but they married each other. What I'm getting at is that in this country, it's really interesting the way that we perceive things.
Oh, sure.
And we forget that the whole thing is actually a basis of. You can look at that political machine of George Bush and Hillary Clinton and go, they will go to war over certain ideals, but at the basis of everything, they're human.
Yeah. And
they understand that we're the same here. Mm-hmm. What I'm trying to get at is that that's how you create content. The understanding of, okay, that deep of understanding. Well, the problems we're having now at the presidential election is people buy into a picture.
Yeah.
They buy into a 15-word soundbite with a video, a GIF.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, 140 characters in an animated,
It's interesting that that's enough to cause violence.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Has it always been that way? Well, here's what's even greater. Since we didn't live during that time, yes. Think about the fact that across this country, they would get the paper and there would be an editorial cartoon. And that editorial cartoon would be enough to cause the same reaction.
Oh, sure.
But it was one editorial cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So it's interesting that 140 characters, that picture, Snapchat has always been here.
Oh, yeah.
Someone used to sit down and draw it. And, it was a big-headed Teddy Roosevelt with a stick riding a,
Well, if you take it to the extreme, today we have memes that you can go to 9 billion different websites and generate your own memes.
I'm one right now.
And, exactly. Political cartoons in the old days were essentially their own memes. I mean, here was this cartoon, and it had a caption that you either found absolutely hilarious or completely offensive, depending on where you were in the scheme of, or both. That's right.
If you're particularly open-minded.
But so it's the same thing now. The difference is now you have millions of people creating similar things rather than you have these select few people who were doing it before.
Well, it's funny, in this local town we have a website that's a local website that is a loosely used news website.
Yeah, air quotes.
But someone said the other day, well, I read it on the news site. I was like, no, you read it on TMZ.
Yeah, right. Yes.
I mean, we got cleavage of so and so leaving the. I mean, it's really, and that's what we've come to in this day and age. And the kids see that and they know that. I mean, some of these kids have more Snapchat followers than we'll ever know of because they're posting. The biggest thing I notice about Periscope that just really lets me down about Periscope is what kids like to do on there is they like to get online and then prank call people. And they're live periscoping them prank calling people.
Oh,
that's real big. It's huge.
Wow, I guess I missed that.
Yeah, I mean, and what's funny is they don't, and they get busted all the time because they don't remember. Digital natives, they are not. Yeah, when we grew up, we could pick up the phone and dial a number.
Right.
And we could say, "Hey, is your refrigerator running?" Well, yeah, you better catch it. I mean, do you have what is it in a can?
Prince Albert.
Prince Albert in the can. Oh, you better let him out. They would never know who called them. And I remember when caller ID came out, so, oh well, we can't do that. They might have caller ID. Well, that's okay. Star 69 it.
Right.
But now you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't get away with it. I mean, you're caught. But these kids, that's the funny part of watching these periscopes is they get caught. Yeah. But they want to get caught because then that video later on YouTube garnishes 30,000 viewers, and they think that I'm a mogul. I'm my own person.
Yeah.
But all that to say, content back to the teachers. I don't think they have the heart to understand why they need to create the content. When you find a great
beyond
teacher,
that, I don't think they have the time.
Oh, that's true too.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another thing, and I'm going to go with the old thing that people say. Well, when you say you don't have time, bull. There's 24 hours in a day. There's 24 hours in a day. How you spend your time and what you feel, and we're back to where's your heart at, and how you spend your time is how you spend your time. So. If you're going to complain about I can't do this because I don't have enough time, well, that means that it's not actually number one on your list. That there's something else taking your time.
Creating the lesson plans and grading the tests and figuring out, interpreting the data in order to figure out which of your students are behind in particular literacy level or a math level. And so, I will argue that in many cases, I can't say many, I know in at least one specific case, i.e. the woman I live with.
But she does it.
She does it, but does she have time to then turn around and create content? No, she does not.
That's true.
So when she says, I don't have time, she ain't got time.
So, but interesting enough, then why is that not at the forefront of all discussions?
Right.
Because it would require a sea change in how we do business.
You're right.
That's true.
It would require the top level making decisions to admit they were wrong.
And to actually give teachers, in order, you'd actually have to make time in the day because we've already filled it with everything that are quote unquote requirements.
Yeah, and money's not going to fix that. Money
not
doesn't,
directly at the very least.
Money's not going to really, in a teacher's life, money's not going to buy them more time.
No, but money can't buy time.
I'm sure they wouldn't, reject it if you offered
it.
Well,
I'm not saying they're not underpaid, exactly.
Yeah.
But that is true because, money can help pick up the kids, or money can make sure that the kids have a nanny, or money can make sure that the kids are taken, because they have families too.
Or heck, beyond that, how about money buying some more people so that you can actually have an individual who actually who likes to do the instruction portion, and individuals who like to do the content creation portion.
And that's the spec we always talk about, and what we wanted in our department for a long time, a technology curriculum person that creates content.
Right.
And it's true. I think that, and I think we both know somebody that's going to start doing that. So creating content, if it was somebody's full-time job that loved creating content, they could create content till the cows come home.
Right.
It's very doable.
The trick is getting that integrated into the actual business mechanism of actually the day, because otherwise it'll be just one more thing added on. So the one person that creates content, but it's not integrated cross discipline. So it's like, I've created a math lesson. Okay, well, we had math lessons already. We've had math lessons for years.
Right.
Okay, well, I created some history. Okay, well, we've had that forever. If it's not integrated into the whole way everybody does the business of educating, to where it's like, we're going to mix things up and we're going to do cross-disciplinary, classes that are part of history and part science and part math and part this. And and here's we're going to create this content as a school. This is our textbook.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot to me, and I know this analogy is used a lot, but to me, this is really, it hits the nail on the head. We are in a 1942 bomber. Right? And we know that really what we want over here is this cool jet airliner. The problem is we're not allowed to land in order to start building this.
Right.
We have to attempt to convert the big bomber that we're in into the jetliner that we know we want while it's in flight. If we could stop for a year or 6 months or however long it would actually take and revamp everything in a district.
Right.
And for that 6 months, sorry kids, you don't get to go to school. And then once everything is laid out and we start over and say, this is where we're going from this point forward, pick up and let's roll. But you can't do that.
But see, the problem that entails though is this. Then you get to the Gibson Guitar Shop in Memphis, Tennessee. There's two parts of the shop. There's the big shop where the factory line's just running and they're making Gibson guitars. And it's a Gibson guitar that they're going to sell for $349, and it's going to say Gibson on it, and it's cut out from a template. And they're going to make, 500 of those a week.
Right.
They're going to run right through, and they're going to be every color. And then there's the Gibson Custom Shop.
Right.
Where 6 guys work.
Yeah.
And they turn out 50 guitars a year.
Yeah.
Now, they're phenomenal, and they're going to cost you $3,000, $4,000 a piece because they're handmade. See, then we run into the problem with, I hear where you're coming from, but we make a factory mold, but that's everything that they don't want.
Right, exactly.
They don't want a factory mold anymore.
Right.
We don't want a factory mold.
Right.
And so we want you to do custom shop.
Right.
Well, we can't do custom shop with 30 kids in a classroom. And we can't do custom shop because at any moment in the custom shop, we were working on this guitar and we thought we were going to be through with it Friday, but we chipped a little too much away, so we had to sand it back down and we had to repaint it. And it took a little bit longer to get this one perfect.
Right.
And so now I've gotten off from the rest of the group. So we finished math, but you're still working on math, and we've moved on to history. And so now the whole thing is flip-flop back again. And
well, ideally, though, ideally, that's where this goes back to, again, what we talked about last week, the open-ended education model.
And I really think that's, and I think Greg's right, too, is we're coming back to that it's staffing. And I really think that the staffing is the key.
Yeah.
I mean, they try to do that, but it's funny where we've come to in this new millennium. It's 2016. And yet we still can't just go. I mean, the Asian countries, other educational entities around this world get it. Okay. We know at this point you are more adept to be in this class with 50 people, and you are more adept to being in class with 8 people.
Right.
and you're going to go this track, and you're going to go this track. Now, we're going to test again, so because some of those 50 kids are going, oh, no, now you're ready to be in a class with 8 people.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
We're going to have to come to an understanding that that's the way it has to work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying we're going to pigeonhole people into you're going to have to just
right.
do
Exactly,
this.
you're stuck being such and such.
But we've got to quit. We're right now we're getting no custom shop stuff.
It's
we're
all
Right. No, it's all cookie cutter. It's been all cookie cutter for
ever.
I don't know, 75, 85, 152 years,
And
whatever.
That's why the United States is now behind everyone else, is because we're cookie cuttering everything out, and we're doing a poor job.
And the areas where the United States excels are the ones that broke out of the mold and said, this is insane.
Right.
I'm going to quit college and go start Facebook.
Right.
So,
yes, exactly.
And the numbers it's really funny. Homeschooling is the one that's the sleeper. And here's why it is. Homeschooling is homeschooling. They don't have a central office.
Right.
They don't have a PR firm.
Right.
There's no HR team working with the homeschoolers. So you don't see stuff that says homeschooling kids taking the majority of scholarships. Homeschooling kids are the ones that get the best jobs. The amount of kids going into these areas of science and literature and blah, blah, blah are homeschooling kids. Because first of all, public education doesn't want you to know that.
Right.
Because we need you to keep coming to school here. But homeschooling is homeschooling. I mean, homeschooling is made up of a mom and a dad and some kids, or a mom and some kids, or a dad and some kids.
Right.
But that's it. There's no PR person. There's nobody running the numbers and throwing the data out and going, hey, listen, at the homeschool. Now, there is some stuff out there, because it can be gleaned from here to here. But overall, that's what's actually happening. That's the breakout. That's the true breakout. And then private schools.
Right.
I mean, private schools. Well, that school I went to school and only had 9 kids in my class, and we started kindergarten and we went all the way through 12th grade with each other. Where are your friends? Well, one's at Harvard, one's a doctor, this one's a lawyer. And I mean,
part of that's just the logistics of people. Anytime you have more and more power centralized in an organization that gets larger and larger, the farther the decision makers get away from the problem.
Sure.
So you can't pivot, you can't make big changes in a quick fashion.
Sure.
And education's gotten to the point where it's not just the school making decisions for the school, it's the government all the way to the top. Where it's like, okay, we have an educational edict that shall be passed down through the
Exactly.
And at that point, the school they're confined to a certain box.
Yeah.
It's like, I must test. I must pass tests. Therefore, doesn't matter how I think I could run this school, I must meet this parameter.
Right.
And so that immediately confines you to a certain model.
Right.
You can tweak that model in all sorts of different ways. You can paint it all kinds of different colors.
Right.
But eventually it comes down to the fact that I have to turn out kids that are going to pass these tests so that we continue to get money, so that we continue to put kids through the system that pass the tests.
Exactly. That's right.
And it's a really awful thing. And that's really the problem with any organization that gets so big, is you can't change because the momentum just keeps carrying you forward. And anytime any one individual says, this is crazy, I'm here at the ground level, I'm in the trenches, there are bullets flying everywhere, none of this makes any sense. You want me to walk backwards wearing a giant target on my back? It doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
But the people who are making decisions are so far abstracted from the problem that and even the ones that do see it, that are up near the top, that go, okay, this is crazy. Then they have to convince other people, okay, this is crazy. And by that point, you get into committees, and it gets designed by committee, and then all these people throw in all these different ideas, and it turns into this giant amalgamated mess of, these were all a whole bunch of good ideas individually, but not so much together. It's like it's peanut butter and chocolate and steak. That just doesn't work.
Right.
So
exactly.
that's. And I don't know how that can be fixed aside from just like
I said, I mean, to me, you'd have to somehow education needs a reboot.
Yes.
But you can't reboot the computer and
exactly,
still
it kind of
surf the web at the same time.
Right.
It just at some point something's going to have to come to a grinding halt in order for things to change. And really, I guess in a weird sort of way, I guess maybe that's sort of where a homeschool to a certain degree, private school, charter schools, those type of things, I guess that's sort of where they kind of come in, because that gives the opportunity for a group of individuals to come together and say, yeah, we're not going to do it this way anymore. We're going to step out and we're going to start our own thing over here.
Right.
But
the thing is, it either takes time, homeschooling, and a heck of a lot of dedication.
Yeah. Well, yes.
And giving up, a whole parent's worth of income usually.
Right.
Yeah.
Or it takes lots more money in order to send them off to public school. So, private school. So, those are, that's great ideas for, you could, if you want something better, you could do it this way or this way if you've got time or you've got money.
Right.
Or both. That doesn't help, like, those of us who are stuck with, like, oh, well, I've got these bills to pay and I can't get out from under them and I have no time, so.
That's like, we need lots of people, lots of money, lots of time, but we only get to pick 1.5 of those.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
I hate to start wrapping us up, but we're getting close to the old time for the.
We are, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Chad Brinkley, who's been listening. Has he been chatting?
Yeah.
He's been chatting with us. I've been running across the room over to where we've got the chat window up.
We need to get Chad on the show really soon.
Yeah.
So, Chad, if you're listening, we're going to get you on here really soon.
You've been drafted.
Yeah, man. You've been drafted.
You're going to be the first guest of the new year, actually. I don't think we have had a guest.
We have not had a guest for quite a while.
Yeah.
So we need guests.
We actually will be changing that. We have a lot of suggestions for guests that have been coming in. So I do want to throw out the Google tip trick of the week.
Google trick of the week.
It's this one. It's there's a new piece that came out Tuesday. You can set expiration dates for access to Google Drive, docs, sheets, and slides.
Yep.
I'll tweet that link out here in just a second.
If you want to share
docs and sheets and slides.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the deals that and what it is it eventually lets a share expire.
Right.
Because and it's great for businesses because there might be something out there you don't, but it's also great for, hey, listen, gang, this is due this day.
Right.
Yeah.
And the last day you'll ever be able to get to it will be on this date. So as an educator, you can set an expiration date for that share, and that sucker is locked down.
To me, that is awesome. That is a great idea.
Yeah, and you don't have to think about it. When you create it in your lesson plan and you create the share or you create the actual document with the share, you can go ahead and put in, well, this is the day that I want it closed. Yeah. Boom, it's closed. And that's great. Expirations are wonderful for that.
Right.
So that's a new piece they just added,
and
it's
cool,
across the board for everything that they have. So expiration dates
on shares.
That's pretty cool.
Sorry, the shortened Google address sucks HDK.
Yeah, is that what it is?
The shortened.
Is that really the shortened one?
That's great.
I feel terrible.
Awesome. Anyway, we'll tweet that out and we'll post that to the site so that you guys can check that out without an expiration.
Exactly. Boom. Hey, listen, you're listening to radio.edutechguys.com. I want to thank you for listening to us today. Catch us on the web at www.edutechguys.com. You can catch us on Twitter at twitter.com/edutechguys. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/edutechguys. On Google Plus, it's googleplus.com/booboo/yoga bear.
We don't have it at Google Plus group. What are you talking about?
Hey, listen, I'm Jeff Madlock.
I'm Greg Moore.
I'm David Henderson.
We'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to EduTech Guys Radio, radio.edutechguys.com.
The opinions expressed on the site and its programs are those of participants and not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any specific educational entity, sponsor, company, state, or government agency.